record on this computer. Yes, so today's topic is about the leaves, and I just want to have a little bit of brief introduction to the learning objectives of today's topic. So who would like to raise hand? We have a chat, and yes, Abdurrahman Wahib was to do it. Yes, you have the mic. Wahib, you have the mic. Abdurrahman Wahib isn't responding. All right, Badr says he wants to do it. Okay, Badr, I'll give you the mic. So what are the learning objectives?
Assalamu alaikum, Mr.
Wa alaikum assalam. How are you?
Alhamdulillah.
All right, good. So let's see, Badr has to read
Okay,
out.
learning objectives. Identify chloroplast, cuticle guard cells, and stomata, upper and lower epidermis, palisade mesophyll, sponge mesophyll, vascular bundles, xylem and phloem in leaves of a dicotyledonous plant. Describe the importance of nitrate ions for making amino acids, magnesium ions for making chlorophyll.
All right, excellent job. So Badr highlighted that we are going to see that the chloroplast, where are they available? What is a cuticle? And the guard cells and the stomata. So all these technical terms related to a leaf will only be understood once we will go through the diagram of that leaf. So let's start the video. It's a small video which explains the cross-section of a leaf. Let me show.
Why did you unmute me?
Yes, Abdurrahman, you're back.
You unmuted me. What?
That happened like 5 minutes ago. We were asking you to participate with us.
Oh, sorry, I was in the bathroom.
Okay. I received your message. That's why I gave you the mic. So it's all right. So let's see the video over here. I'll try to explain things to you guys when we are looking at it. So right now, let's try to watch this one.
Just like in animals, plants have different levels of organization, with lots of similar cells combining to form tissues, different types of tissues combining to form organs, and then multiple organs combining to form organ systems. To see how these fit together, we're going to take a look at the structure of a leaf, which itself is an organ. And along with the stem and roots, it forms an organ system that's function is to transport substances around the plant. This image here is a cross-section of a leaf, as though you sliced it from top to bottom and are looking inside. Before we explore these structures though, it's worth considering its function. Leaves are the site of photosynthesis, which we'll cover in another video, but basically it requires lots of carbon dioxide and water in order to make sugars. The water comes from the soil and is transported to the leaves via the roots and xylem, as we'll see in the next video. But the carbon dioxide diffuses directly into the leaf from the outside air, through lots of little holes called stomata. In fact, each of the leaves will have thousands of these stomata, and they're scattered through the lower epidermis, which is a layer of epidermal tissue. Once the carbon dioxide has diffused through these little holes, it moves up the leaf and enters the spongy mesophyll tissue, which has lots of air gaps between the cells, so that the gas can easily diffuse through to the next layer, which we call the palisade mesophyll layer. This is where most of the photosynthesis happens, and so the palisade cells are packed full of chloroplasts. Above this, we have the upper epidermis, which is another layer of epidermal tissue. These cells are almost transparent though, as the sunlight needs to be able to pass through them to get to the chloroplasts in the palisade cells beneath. And once photosynthesis has finally produced the sugar molecules, they're carried to the rest of the plant by these green tubes here, which we call the phloem. Now the main...
So let me explain it back. There are a few boys who are just walking in. So this is the cross section of the leaf. This is the upper side of the leaf, and this is the lower side of the leaf. Let me grab my pen. And 1 minute. So if we are looking at the top side, this is the top side. We're going to find that this layer is actually bright in color. If you put your hand on it, it's going to be more smooth. And it contains the waxy cuticle layer. It contains the waxes which protects the leaf from losing a lot of water. So this is the topmost layer. We call it upper epidermis. Epidermis means the outermost layer. And we can see that this portion is actually called the palisade mesophyll, which contains the palisade cells. And these palisade cells contains the chloroplast. Only these guys are responsible for doing the photosynthesis, not the lower ones. So the one which is on the top, they are receiving the sunlight, and they are having the chloroplast, which makes them look green, and that's where this photosynthesis is taking place. Now the second layer is the spongy mesophyll. This one, the spongy, has a lot of gap between them, so that the water and the gases can move around easily. They are loosely arranged because oxygen can move out, carbon dioxide can go in, and the water molecules can go out as well as the form of water vapor. So the last one is the lower epidermis. This is the lower layer, and over here you're going to find that there's a gap. There is a small pore. Let me change the color of it. Something which is different. No, this is green. Green won't work, so I'll take a purple one. This is the gap where the things can actually go in. We call them the stomata. And they are in the lower epidermis. They are many pores on the lower surface. And they're microscopic as well. They are being created by these special kind of cell. This is called a guard cell. The guard cells have the ability to either swell up like a balloon, or they can become flaccid. Exactly like a balloon, when you take away the air, if you reduce the air, it becomes flaccid. So let's look at the rest of the video. Let me clear the annotations, and he will explain the part of the stoma, how do they work, and what is their function.
The problem that leaves face is water loss. The xylem, which runs next to the phloem here, continually brings water up from the roots for the palisade cells to use in photosynthesis. But that water can be lost from both the top and bottom of the leaf. To reduce this water loss, the leaf has a waxy cuticle on top, which is basically a thin waterproof layer of lipids that the water can't get through.
All right, this was important, that these purple and the green pipes. The purple pipes are the xylem tubes. They bring in the water from the roots to the leaf. They are bringing in the water, and the water is being absorbed from the roots to the leaf. And once the water comes in, it might be able to lose the water from the stomata and from the top of this palisade cells. So that's why we have a cuticle waxy layer, which protects the water loss from the top. But still from the bottom, we are losing it. And the phloem is responsible to take the sugar from the leaf to the roots. All right, so let's begin. Again, I'll explain. Phloem is responsible to take the sugar from the leaf to the roots.
When it comes to the bottom of the leaf, the main problem is the stomata, as the water will diffuse out of any gaps really easily. The leaves need these holes though, so they can get the carbon dioxide that they need. As a compromise, the leaves keep their stomata open for as short a time as possible. so that they can maximize carbon dioxide absorption but minimize water loss. In order to achieve this delicate balance, each stoma, which is what we call a single stomata, is formed from the gap between two guard cells. When the plant has lots of water, so it doesn't need to worry so much about conserving it, the guard cells will be well hydrated, which we call turgid, and this makes the gap between them larger, allowing more carbon dioxide to diffuse through. On the other hand, when the plant is short of water, the guard cells will lose water due to osmosis, and they'll become flaccid. This in effect closes the stomata, meaning that the plant no longer takes in carbon dioxide.
All right, so did you guys understand this part where it has, if the plant has enough water, then what happens to the guard?
But more importantly,
the guard cells will become turgid. Let me mute this and let me rewind a little bit. When it says turgid, turgid means that they are properly flated up, that they have a gap between them like this. And this would allow the carbon dioxide to go in with a lot of, the absorption would be faster, easier and faster. So if it loses the water, it becomes flaccid. Okay, I'm gonna turn off the webcams, boys, so that you can watch the video, because there are some boys who are asking that there's a lag in the video. Actually, I'm not playing the video right now, but still it is important that the video goes smooth, so keeping the webcams off. Okay, so this is where the guard cells become turgid. They open up, so the space between them is maximum over here. And if we see, as they lose water, these guard cells becomes flaccid, and the gap between them is finished, and they close the gate so that no water, no carbon dioxide can go in or out. So this is for saving the water. This is how they close at night, and in the daytime they open up. They have sensors where they can identify if it is a daytime. If it is a daytime, they will open up, and if it is night, they will close like this. All right, so let's hear what he has to say.
when photosynthesis isn't taking place, and they don't need carbon dioxide. And the reason that most of the stomata are on the underside of the leaves, rather than the top, is that the lower surface is more shaded, which makes it cooler, and so it means that less water will evaporate. One last tissue we need to mention is meristem tissue, which is basically the plant form of stem cells. They're found at the growing tips of the roots and shoots, and can differentiate into loads of different cell types, so that the plant can grow. We've actually already taken a look at meristems in our video on stem cells, if you want to check it out.
So the meristem tissue is actually based on only the tips of the plant. These cells have the ability to become any type of cell that they want. Whatever the plant decides, it can become a branch, it can become a leaf, it can become a fruit, a flower, or it can become a root. So all these on the tip, these cells are called the stem cells, or in this one we call the meristem tissues. We will discuss about them in the next videos, but right now it's just an introduction.
We'll also put down the link to our active transport video, which covers the structure and function of root hair cells. And that's everything for this video. If you enjoyed it, then please do give us a like, and we'll see you next time.
So that was the video session, and let's go to a small activity. We have about 45 minutes. I want you guys to open up your Neopods. Let me pause this. So boys, please log into your Neopod. Open the website neopod.com, and I'll give you the code for the activity. Just going to add this up into the vascular. Yes, Wiley, just 1 minute. I'm opening up the code. Just starting the live presentation. We have the code. It is T9ECI. So let me send this to everyone through the chat. All right, so the link is nearpod.com. I'll write it down. The password is T9EC1. ECI, sorry. ECI. So you'll find this video. This is the code on the left side. We have 3 boys already logged in. Excellent job. We've got Badr, Iyad, yes. They have logged in. So this is the code T9ECI. On the website nearpod.com. It's a 12-minute clip. With the activity, we would be able to finish this off in 25 minutes. We're left with 25 minutes. So let's start.
This is yarrow, a flowering plant found all over the northern hemisphere. Its feathery leaves have natural astringent properties, and its scientific name, Achillea, comes from Achilles, the Greek hero, who's said to have used it on the wounds of his soldiers. And this is snake grass, otherwise known as horsetail, or to the kids, pop grass, because you can just pop it apart and then put it back together again, although on top there it's dead now. And this is a ponderosa pine, one of my favorite trees. It can grow hundreds of feet tall, and on a warm day, if you sniff it, it smells like butterscotch. They all have different shapes, sizes, and properties, but each of these things is a vascular plant, one of the most diverse and, dare I say, important families in the tree of life. Since their predecessors first arrived on the scene some 420 million years ago, vascular plants have found tremendous success through their ability to exploit resources all around them. They convert sunshine into food, they absorb nutrients directly through the soil without the costly process of digestion, and they even enlist the help of some friends when it comes to reproduction. So often, when they're doing their thing, it involves a third party, which, like, you know, good for them. But these things alone can't explain vascular plants' extraordinary evolutionary success. I mean, algae was photosynthesizing long before plants made it fashionable. And as we learned last week, non-vascular plants have reproductive strategies that are tricked out 6 ways from Sunday. So, like, what gives? The secret to vascular plant success is their defining trait: conductive tissues that can take food and water from one part of a plant to another part of a plant. This may sound simple enough, but the ability to move stuff from one part of an organism to another was a huge evolutionary breakthrough for vascular plants. It allowed them to grow exponentially larger, store food for lean times, and develop some fancy features that allowed them to spread farther and faster. It was one of the biggest revolutions in the history of life on Earth. The result? Plants dominated Earth long before animals even showed up, and even today, they hold most of the world records. The largest organism in the world is a redwood in Northern California, 115 meters tall, bigger than 3 blue whales laid end to end. The most massive organism is a grove of quaking aspen in Utah, all connected by the roots, weighing a total of 13 million pounds. And the oldest living thing, a patch of seagrass in the Mediterranean dating back 200,000 years. We spent a lot of time congratulating ourselves on how awesomely magnificent and complex the human animal is, but you guys, I gotta hand it to you.
So let's start the activity. Let me pause the screen, and the question is, what do you already know about the structure of the vascular plants? What are the features about the vascular plants that you know? You have 2 minutes to do this activity, and then we'll move on. right. Alim. Okay, there you are right. This is a good answer by Alim. We have another answer. Yes, that is correct as well. Yes, this is right. One minute left, boys. Please hurry up. We have another answer. It's actually a question, not an answer. Mohammed, you missed out the video. I'll explain it to you after I receive the answers. Okay, we have a minute, so I'll explain it to you. The vascular bundle or the vascular tissue, when you have also seen in the leaf, I've explained it over there, the structure of the leaf. There were two kinds of tubes coming in. One was green, one was purple. One was named as xylem, and the other one was purple. The purple one with the phloem, sorry. So they were actually meant for transporting materials, like from the roots. If the roots are absorbing the water, they have to be delivered to the leaf, so it comes from the xylem. And the other one, if the leaf is producing the sugar, it has to be delivered to the roots. So fluid takes the sugar from the leaf to the roots. So these plants, they're gonna be either very tall, they have a characteristics that they're gonna be very tall, and they would have a proper tube system, pipe system to deliver the food and the water. That's what makes them tall and strong. So they gotta have a very strong trunk, and they can take one part of the food to another. So yes, that's a good answer. Yes. So let's move on to the video.
So you know by now, the more specialized tissues an organism has, the more complex they are and the better they typically do. But you also know that these changes don't take place overnight. The tissues that define vascular plants didn't evolve all at once, but today we recognize three types that make these plants what they are. Dermal tissues make up their outermost layers and help prevent damage and water loss. Vascular tissues do all of that conducting of materials I just mentioned. And the most abundant tissue type, ground tissues, carry out some of the most important functions of plant life, including photosynthesis and the storage of leftover food. Now, some plants never go beyond these basics. They sprout from a germinated seed, develop these tissues, and then stop. This is called primary growth, and plants that are limited to this stage are herbaceous. As the name says, they are like herbs, small, soft, and flexible, and typically they die down to the root or die completely after one growing season. Pretty much everything you see growing in a backyard garden, herbs and flowers and broccoli and that kind of stuff, those are herbaceous. But a lot of vascular plants go on to secondary growth, which allows them to grow not just taller, but wider. This is made possible by the development of additional tissues, particularly woody tissues. These are your woody plants, which include shrubs and bark-covered vines called lianas, and of course...
All right, so we have the question, which type of plant tissue is considered conductive tissue? Conductive tissue. By conductive, we mean they can transport. Was it the dermal tissue? Dermal creates the sound for the skin. Ground tissue is actually for the sake of photosynthesis and for storage. Herbaceous tissue is the one which is creating like the soft and hardy type of thing. And the vascular tissue is the bundle of xylem and phloem. So which one of them is conducting? Which one of them is transporting? So if you have chosen A and B, I feel sorry for you guys. Choose between C and D. Most of the guys have answered A, which is wrong. Dermal tissue isn't the right answer. Ground tissue, no. It's the vascular tissue. That is the correct answer. So let's go. Yes, Walid, you're right.
your trees. But no matter how big they may or may not grow, all vascular plants are organized into 3 main organs, all of which you are intimately familiar with, not just because you knew what they were when you were in 2nd grade, but also because you probably eat them every day. First, the root. It absorbs water and nutrients and serves as a pantry of leftover food, and of course keeps the plant anchored in the ground. Next, the stem. It contains structures that transport fluids and store nutrients, and also is home to specialized cells called meristems that are responsible for creating new growth. But their most important task is to support the last organ, the leaf. This, of course, is where the plant exchanges gases with the atmosphere and collects sunlight to manufacture food, with the help of water and minerals collected through the root and sent up through the stem. Now, each of these organs contains all 3 tissues, which together work to absorb, conduct, and exploit one of the world's most important molecules: water. So since plants are pretty much designed around water, let's follow some H2O to see how plants make the most of it. First, as with most organisms, nothing can get in or out of a plant without getting past the skin. In this case, the dermal tissue. In smaller, non-woody plants, most of this is just a thin layer of cells called, fittingly, the epidermis. Naturally, this is great for keeping the outside out and the inside in, but the epidermis can also sport some snazzy features in different parts of the plant. In leaves and stems, for example, it often has a waxy outer layer called a cuticle that helps prevent water loss. On some leaves, or on pods that hold those valuable seeds, the epidermis can sprout hair-like structures called trichomes that help keep insects at bay and secrete toxic or sticky fluids. The same secretions that make the yarrow useful for first aid, for instance, are also what discourage ants from using it for lunch. Finally, in the roots, the epidermis has similar features called root hairs that maximize the root surface area for absorption, just like we've seen in our own organ systems. This, of course, is where the plants generally absorb the water they need.
Okay. Which of the following statements best describes the function of the dermal tissue? Dermal tissue is the skin tissue. Are they going to conduct photosynthesis and food storage? That was the not dermis tissue, that was the, what was it? Ground tissue. Option B, to protect plants from injury and water loss. That could be a right answer. To aid in cell division and reproduction. No. To accelerate growth and transpiration. Maybe. So choose between B and D if you guys can. All right, somebody made a good decision. No. Bad decision. Good. 50-50. Good and bad together. All right, let's see the answers. The correct answer is B. It is to protect the plants from injury and water loss. That is the dermis job. No C options, boys. Let's go to continue.
Need. By the way, the cells that make up this dermal tissue are the most basic essential building blocks of vascular plants, called parenchyma, or visceral flesh cells. These are the most abundant plant cells, found not just in roots but also in stems, leaves, and flowers. They're thin and flexible and can perform all kinds of functions depending on their location. Now, after passing through the skin of the root and through its starchy cortex or outer layer, water arrives in the first of 2 kinds of vascular tissue: the xylem. The xylem's main function is to carry water and dissolved minerals from the root up to the leaves. But like, how? How, by Zeus's beard, can plants make water defy gravity? Well, a lot of the reason is that up top, the plant is continuously evaporating water through a process called evapotranspiration. As water evaporates from the leaves, which I'll explain in greater detail when we get up there, it creates negative pressure inside the xylem, which draws more water upward. Plants can transpire truly staggering amounts of water, and it's because of this that our atmosphere is habitable. A single acre of corn gives off about 3,000 gallons of water every day. A large oak tree, just one tree, can transpire 40,000 gallons in a year. Only 1% of the water that plants absorb is actually used by plants, mostly in photosynthesis. The rest is slowly and invisibly released, providing one of Earth's most crucial functions: transporting water from the soil into the atmosphere, where it then returns to the surface as rain, making all life possible.
All right, so what is the relationship between the evapotranspiration and the movement of water up the xylem? This is a very important question. Look, he said that 1% of the water that is being absorbed by the roots is going to utilize in the photosynthesis. And 99% of the water is being lost. Xylem is actually using this power, the evapotranspiration, to actually take up the water up to 200 meters off the tall trees. Imagine it's just like that. You have a rope, and you start pulling the rope, and on the other end of the rope, there's a stone. So once you are pulling the rope, it creates a stress between the rope. And the rope is then actually what do you call drag the stone as you keep on pulling it towards yourself. So transpiration is happening on the leaf. So the pull is on the leaf. And the water is going down like a chain, like a rope, down to the roots. So if something is pulling it out from the leaf, it creates the stress down to the roots, and the root starts absorbing the water. That's how it goes up all the way to the leaf because of the transpirational pull. So let's see. Rayad, your answer is right, but what has evapotranspiration has to do? What is happening because of the transpiration, because of the evaporation of water molecules in the leaf? What are they doing? Is it helping the xylem? So you can simply say the more the water transpires, the more the water evaporates from the leaf, the easier it is for the xylem to bring up the water. Yes, Yusuf, you're right. I hope you didn't copy it from the Google, but it's a right answer. Would have appreciated if you used your own words after understanding this. It is simple as that. The more the water evaporates from the leaf, the stronger the xylem gets a pull, and then it can provide the water up to the plant. The easier for the xylem to do its job. All right, then we have a genius in the class, mashallah. Yes, Muhammad is gonna be way too much more difficult than grade 6, 7, because 8 you're taking combined sciences. This is a GCSE, and it will award you with one score, one star. It's a one award science, and it's gonna be containing chemistry and biology and physics, all three of them. So, so Nader has done a beautiful job. The more the water goes, the more the water evaporates. Is that right? Mohammed, you have to go the other way. The more the water is evaporated from the leaf, the more xylem can provide the water from the roots to the leaf. So it's like if I start pulling off the water from the leaf, it actually creates a stress on the roots, and this starts sucking faster. It's like you are sucking on a tube and the pipe. So the more you can drink faster, the more the volume of the water goes down, and you are, you know. So it is the opposite. What is the opposite? Yeah, the other way around. You can write that the more the water evaporates from the leaf, the more the xylem's job gets easier in providing the water from the roots to the leaf. So let's go to, okay, good. A lot of people have answered. One of them, Walid, says, I don't know. Abdurrahman Alim is good. The level of the water, no, the loss of water through evaporation to the surface area. Yes, you're halfway there, Mohammed, and that's a good response. And mother says, I don't know. I explained it 5 times, like 5 times. Seriously? You all have to say is, I don't know. Okay, let's start the lesson.
Yeah. Chew on that as we continue up the xylem, and as we get higher in the plant, we begin to encounter a greater diversity of cells. designed not only for moving stuff around, but also for providing structural support. For instance, elongated cells with thicker cell walls called parenchyma help hold up the plant body, especially in herbaceous plants and young structures like new shoots. Celery is mostly made up of these cells, so you already know what they taste like. In larger, woody plants, you also find sclerenchyma cells, especially in the xylem. These have even thicker cell walls made from lignin, a super strong polymer that makes wood woody. What's weird about sclerenchyma cells, though, is that most of them, when they reach maturity, they die. They just leave behind their hearty cell walls as a support structure, and new cells from a fresh layer during the next growing season push the old, dead layer outward. In warm, wet years, these layers grow thick, while in cold, dry years, they're light and thin. These woody remains form tree rings, which scientists can use not only to track the age of a tree, but also the history of the climate that it lives.
All right, so sclerenchyma cells provide support to what? Smaller herbaceous plants, larger woody plants, shoots of young plants, non-vascular plants. So let's share the answer because we are running out of time. We're left with 4 minutes and we have 4 minutes as well. So it's larger woody plants.
It lived in. Now, at the top of the xylem, water arrives at its final destination, the leaf. Here, water travels through an increasingly minuscule network of vein-like structures until it's dumped into a new kind of tissue called the mesophyll. As you can tell from its name, meso meaning middle and phyll meaning leaf, this layer sits between the top and the bottom epidermis of the leaf, forming the bacon in the BLT that is the leaf structure. This, my friends, marks our entry into the ground tissue. I'm sure you're as excited about that as I am. Despite its name, ground tissue isn't just in the ground, and it's actually just defined as any tissue that's either not dermal or vascular. Regardless of this low billing, though, it's where the money is, and by money, I mean food. Now, the mesophyll is chock full of parenchyma cells of various shapes and sizes, and many of them arranged loosely to let CO2 and other materials flow between them. These cells contain the photosynthetic organelles, chloroplasts, which, as you know, host the process of photosynthesis. But where is this CO2 coming from? Well, some of the neatest features on the leaf are these tiny openings in the epidermis called stomata. Around each stoma are 2 guard cells connected at both ends that regulate its size and shape. When conditions are dry, the guard cells are limp, they stick together, closing the stoma. But when the leaf is flush with water, the guard cells plump up and bow out from each other, opening the stoma to allow water to evaporate and let carbon dioxide in. This is what allows evapotranspiration to take place, as well as photosynthesis. And you remember photosynthesis through a series of brain-rackingly complicated reactions sparked by the energy from the sun. The CO2 combines with hydrogen from the water to create glucose. The leftover oxygen is released through the stomata, and the glucose is ready.
All right, this will be the last question for today. That when a leaf is flush with water, the guard cells swell. The guard cells for the stomata will swell up. They will become turgid and open the what? Allowing water vapor to go in and out. So is it the stoma? Is it the chlorophyll, mesophyll? So I just answered it already. If you guys were listening carefully, I just said the word. And guard cells open up. Guard cells, remember the video, the first video we saw of the leaf, it's related to, everybody's answering wrong options. It's related to stomata. Option D is the answer. So that would be all for today. I'm stopping the video now.